Creamer Media's Mining Weekly Online is interviewing Glenn Bezuidenhout, DRA Global Executive Process. What sort of opportunities do you see for gold in South Africa?
Well, firstly, on surface, I think there's huge opportunities. There's so many tailings dams around, especially in the West Rand, and we know that those dams will be removed for the extraction of gold and uranium. Bearing in mind that there's no mining costs associated with the retreatment of these tailings dams. So as the gold price increases, there's a lot of encouragement to process these dams. And also from an environmental point of view, there's a lot of benefit that goes with it as well.
And we have two big ones, one on the East Rand and one coming up on the West Rand. Yes. Are you talking about a lot more in between?
There are some entrepreneurs who own tailings dams in the Blyfo-Eitzig area, in the eastern, well, in the Mpumalanga area, and also, yes, out in the Evander area.
And what could DRA do for them especially? How could you handle these projects and make sure that they are turned to positive account?
What DRA can achieve with especially projects as in tailings retreatment, they're very high tonnage processes, and on that basis the capital cost can be prohibitive. So in doing that, it's very important that certain technologies are applied to bring the costs of these processes down. Gold processing has advanced in some various areas, and one of the areas is we look at the kinetics of the process. When I say the kinetics of the process, gold has always relied on a very long duration, 24-hour processing time. In tailings dam retreatment, you're looking at much shorter retention times of nearly down to 8 hours. And when you're processing 1.5 million tons of material a month, the impact of that on the capital cost of the plant is very important. The old-fashioned style of processing didn't use flotation. So inside these tailings dams is pyrite, and there's also uranium, and there can also be uranium associated with the pyrite. But what's very exciting is what DRA can bring to these projects is our ability in flotation and the extraction of the pyrite from these tailings dams to then process for the production of acid to leach uranium, and also to then extract the gold from. So there's a multitude of opportunities in tailings dam retreatment. The Witwatersrand ores are known to be very friendly ores to treat, and so compared to the challenges that we have of treating African ores in West Africa, Central Africa, which are slightly more complex or have some refractory content. Now, refractory content minimizes the recovery potential of the gold ore, whereas Witwatersrand gold ore is lovely ore to process, and you can achieve very, very high metallurgical efficiencies.
And we're talking also about more opportunity at depth. Is this through existing mining companies going deeper, or are you talking about new entrants?
It all depends on those that want to go back into the days of when all reserves were rated in pennyweights, which is 1.5 grams per ton, and there could be a couple of pennyweights. So would geologists want to go along and re-look and reevaluate those resources? That's really what would make those projects viable if they're at depth. South Africa is coming back into the picture. We're very, very pleased to be now doing work for locally, gold work, and we're very excited about doing that with gold going up in gold price. And if you think a lot of those operations probably went quiet or were shut down when gold was in the era of $400 an ounce. Now gold's moved on. It's establishing itself in very, very reliable levels of gold price, and in doing so, it's going to encourage the investors or new small miners to come into the business. Nowadays, all costs, sustaining costs, a viable operation is below $1,000 an ounce. and there are some operations that can even go as low as $700 an ounce. And that alone for us, when we're evaluating the project, tells us that the project has traction. It is going to get funding.
And any of these juniors that you are making a few inquiries now, do they come within that hurdle rate?
They do. You know, you must. One of the things to their benefit is they don't have very high overheads, and they're not a very so. And we do offer the operations side, so that they really are a very small. Their costs themselves, all it boils down to is the operation. So whereas big mining houses load costs on top of the mines that they have, those costs disappear. So that does help to make these projects viable.
And when you say you offer the operation, does that include your Minipex, where they come in and build down and operate?
Yeah, that's where Minipex come into play, and that's a huge opportunity for the small operator.
But if they want to do it themselves, they can also arrange that, or you can help them with that.
Most certainly, and we even encourage some what we would call caretaking, babysitting period while the operation is being optimized, and we do use Minipex for that. Gold is, when I talk about Witwatersrand gold processing, and I look at gold processing that we've done on projects outside of our borders, they are very, very interesting projects. You know, gravity concentration, for example, is a very, very important aspect of gold processing, and it is absolutely fascinating how much gold is recovered. And in projects where we put gravity concentration and we see the results from that, that's very, very, very exciting. Where gold is literally taken out of the process before any chemical is used, and almost virtually sent straight to the smelt, to the gold room. It is absolutely fascinating. And
what sort of recoveries have you achieved?
Any hydrometallurgical process will always strive for very, very recoveries approaching 90%. And gold is a hydrometallurgical process. So generally, gold projects processing, or the benchmark of taking test work to develop a gold process has that objective. So really and truly, very in the high 80s, over 90% gold extractions.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly Online, speaking to Glenn Bezuidenhout, the DRA Global Executive Process.